Good morning, or good night, at least for me. I'm Emfoculatura, and this is a simple tutorial on how to make your drums better. And I will teach you how to rethink how your drums work and how to redo them, or do them from scratch, so they sound better almost instantly. Like it's 15 minutes of work and they will instantly click if they didn't click yet. So here we have this project I have made for this video. It's a really simple one. I have only 7 instruments. I think one of them isn't being used. Actually, no. All of them are used. And this is the Access Virus emulator I use for Sound Synthesizer. This is Vital. And this is FabFilter Stream 3 I also used. And a few drum samples that I will use to demonstrate my technique that I use for making my drums. So I will first play this section with no drums at all, and then I will play my section with pretty quick, sloppy, simple drums, but it will demonstrate what I'm trying to do. And after that we'll make a drum sequence ourselves. So now let's play the thing. This is the key layer, the access virus keys. This is the D-pad in the background, that's basically a layer. And this is the bass. And that's all. Now, here's how it sounds with my drums. The drums themselves are just 4 sounds: an open hat, closed hat, a kick and a snare. Really simple, but obviously you can add more sounds to your drums, and I will do that later. Okay, so now I'm just gonna copy this no drum section. First, my main idea is that we have strong beats and weak beats. The weak beats are the most important. Oh, sorry, my alarm. And first, you have to know what those weak beats are and what are they used for in rhythm. Because strong beats are obvious. For example, on the floor kick pattern, the strong beats are the kicks. Actually, both strong and the weak beats enforce, but also, you know what I mean, the subdivisions of that are left empty. So let's start with that. You can obviously do any kick configuration, but usually you try to emphasize the strong beats in your rhythm with the kicks. Sometimes the kicks can be offbeat to throw the listener off, but usually the simplest way is to just place them on the strong beats. Maybe if you have a particular rhythm, you can change the strong beats around so that it sounds differently, but usually that's what people do, just put them regularly. And now is where the fun starts, because to fill those weak beats, most people just use a snare, which is good. There is nothing bad about using the snare for that. And the snare has to fill in the gaps between those strong beats. So if we do that, we get a very simple rhythm. But now it doesn't sound really interesting, because those weak beats turn into strong beats because they're on the same space as the strong ones. The snare is always after the kick, so it just plays a half a note shorter, just a shorter note, but it still plays only the strong beats. So if we move this snare around to the even weaker beat that we have here, on the 6th position, it sounds more interesting because the listener is expecting the snare to be on the next strong beat, and instead it's on a weak beat, which has obviously more space. Because as you see, strong beats usually have little space, little potential for changing the sound. If you place a kick on a strong beat, as you can see, we have our chords here, we have a bass note here. It just doesn't make any sense, because what else can you put it here? But we have a weak beat. Look, there's all the space we can fill with our drums, and drums are really, they are filler, because if you want to just highlight a rhythm, the bass often does that by itself, but the drums keep the song going. They keep it interesting. So now let's play this particular part. It sounds more interesting because the listener isn't expecting the snare to be on a weak beat. At least subconsciously. After some repetition, it gets going, but at first they expect the snare to be here. So if we changed it to an even weaker beat, it will sound even more unexpected and you will have even more space. So here you can place another kick instead of the snare to throw the listener off even more than usual. And that's what drums are basically about, throwing the listener off so he doesn't know what to expect, but it will be expected enough for him to keep counting, and the strong beats help the listener count. Basically, music is just counting, and the brain is enjoying it so much, the listener starts to groove. Let's play it now. See, this sounds way more interesting than the previous, beat. Now, I'm just gonna copy it over because I am lazy and I wanna keep this short, and we're gonna get to hats. Hats are really important in this case, since hats by themselves can be weak and strong. If you have a drummer, the strong hat will be the open hat usually, and the weak hat will be closed hat. I usually like to add 3 steps of the strength of a sound, so at low velocity it will be a really weak hat. For a drummer it will be basically bouncing off of the stick, so the hat will be quite hearable, but not really. The intentional hat, at least a closed one, is the medium strength hat, and you can place it with a snare, for example, because it makes sense. The weak beat has more space, so you can fit more sounds in together and layer them. But on a strong beat, this sounds weird, unnatural, because a drummer would be focused on the kick, not on the head, so the head would be played with less intensity, especially compared to the other heads. This makes more sense. So, you can build up the intensity, for example, here, which sounds really natural. And obviously, we can now, on this beat here, empty space, we can fill it in with an open hat. And that's how I usually build those elements. So, if we have some space here, for example, if we want to add a tone, I'm just gonna pick one from the stock sample library. Now this is a step, I'm pretty stupid. This probably won't... Yeah, for example, this tone. I'm gonna make a new track, and here I'm gonna place the tone. After that, we can also build a micro rhythm. It's something I often use. It's basically a small pattern, a motif, that can keep repeating in the drum pattern. So, for example, if we want to have, I don't know how this pattern is called. I'm pretty stupid again. So, for example, this pattern right here, it keeps repeating in an interesting way and keeps the listener engaged. And here, in this space, where we have a snare, we can add more hats. Because here, we just have space to fill it and make the drums fuller. And here, we have some more space, which you can use for the open hat. Here, and on the kicks, really, on the kicks you don't have that much space, because they're the fullest, they're usually on the strongest beats. So I can't fit anything here unless I want to clutter up the sound and have 3 different drum samples in the same space, which is kinda stupid. But if we go and start doing this more and more, I'm gonna just copy paste it again. It makes things interesting. Here we can add some variation. So on this snare, we can add more hats. And here we have a ton of empty space. We can do a tom roll. Where is the tom? Oh, here. So low velocity, high velocity. Because here on low velocity, we can insert something more spacious in the either frequency spectrum or just with time. Something that is longer, for example. So we can add a snare, and here we can maybe use this space to add a small hat. And we can do something else here. So we can use an open hat here and a tom here combined with a small hat. And we'll do the same here. Actually, I'm gonna introduce a clap, another sound, which you can use to break the monotony, because here we only have hats, toms, and the kick snare. So I'm gonna introduce a clap. Like this one. Control T. Thank God for keyboard shortcuts. And this is our new pattern. Obviously, we can go much more experimental with this, because nothing is set in stone. You can use a snare as on the strong beat and a kick on the weak beats. There's nothing, no one telling you to not do that. And in this pattern, in the second one, we're gonna do just that. I'm gonna do this, and should I place a kick here? I don't know, maybe a snare would be better, because we have to fill in the snares too. We don't have much space for those, but we can place them on the strong beats now that the kicks act as the weak beats. Now it feels, the listener will now feel like the music is moving forward faster than it should be, because the kicks that usually dictate the pulse of the song now build up to the pulse of the song, just like snares often build up to the pulse set by the kicks. Now the roles are reversed. And I'm gonna just play some more hats. because why not? Everyone loves hats. If you want to visualize it, you can write it down on paper, the strength of each individual element, and just add them up. It will basically work the same way in the final song, so... Here we have an extremely busy pattern, and we can copy it over, introduce some toms, and we can introduce some tom rolls. Just like that, and we can keep going. We still have the claps, so on the left pattern, we can add them in. Maybe change this tom here and introduce a weaker clap here. And we can finish it off like that. Just like in the first pattern, the claps start at the end. And now let's hear the whole thing. And that's how I built my drums. It's a pretty simple technique, easy to understand, and at least it has worked for me. I don't know if it will work for you. Thank you for listening. That will be basically it. You can obviously, again, experiment, break the rules a little bit. It's always fun to do that, just like I did here, by replacing the kick and the snare. And remember, have fun. Good morning and good night again.